Sapiens, Chapter 8. There is no justice in history. Might look a little pixelated because it's dark, whatever. Understanding human history in the millennia following the agricultural revolution boils down to a single question. How did humans organize themselves in mass cooperation networks when they lacked the biological instincts necessary to sustain such networks? The short answer is that humans created imagined orders and devised scripts. These two inventions filled the gaps left by our biological inheritance. However, the appearance of these networks was, for many, a dubious blessing. The imagined orders sustaining these networks were neither neutral nor fair. They divided people into make believe groups arranged in a hierarchy. The upper levels enjoyed privileges and power, while the lower ones suffered from discrimination and oppression. Hammurabi's code, for example, established a pecking order of superiors, commoners, and slaves. Superiors got all the good things in life. Commoners got what was left. Slaves got a beating if they complained. Despite its proclamation of the equality of all men, the imagined order established by the Americans in 1776 also established a hierarchy. It created a hierarchy between men, who benefited from it, and women, who it left disempowered. It created a hierarchy between two whites, who enjoyed liberty, and blacks and Native Americans, who were considered humans of a lesser type and therefore did not share in the equal rights of men. Many of those who signed the Declaration of Independence were slaveholders. They did not release their slaves upon signing the Declaration, nor did they consider themselves hypocrites. In their view, the rights of men had little to do with Negroes. The American order also consecrated the hierarchy between rich and poor. Most Americans at that time had little problem with the inequality caused by wealthy parents passing their money and businesses on to their children. In their view, equality meant simply that the same laws applied to rich and poor. It had nothing to do with unemployment benefits, integrated education, or health insurance. Liberty, too, carried a very different connotations than it does today. In 1776, it did not mean that the disempowered, certainly not blacks or Indians or, God forbid, women, could gain and exercise power. It meant simply that the state could not, except in unusual circumstances, confiscate a citizen's private property or tell him what to do with it. The American order thereby upheld the hierarchy of wealth, which some thought was mandated by God and others viewed as representing the immutable laws of nature. Nature, it was claimed, rewarded the merit with wealth while penalizing indolence. All the above mentioned distinctions between free persons and slaves, between whites and blacks, between rich and poor, are rooted in fictions. The hierarchy of men and women will be discussed later, yet it is an iron rule of history that every imagined hierarchy disavows its fictional origins and claims to be natural and inevitable. For instance, many people who have viewed the hierarchy of free persons and slaves as natural and correct have argued that slavery is not a human invention. Hammurabi saw it as ordained by the gods. Aristotle argued that slaves have a slavish nature, whereas free people have a free nature. Their status in society is merely a reflection of their innate nature. As white supremacists about the racial hierarchy, and you are in for a pseudoscientific lecture concerning the biological differences between races, you are likely to be told that there is something in Caucasian blood or genes that make whites naturally more intelligent, moral, and hardworking. Ask a diehard capitalist about the hierarchy of wealth, and you are likely to hear its inevitable outcome of objective differences in abilities. The rich have more money in this view because they are more capable and diligent. No one should be bothered then if the wealthy get better health care, better education, and better nutrition. The rich richly deserve every perk they enjoy. Hindus who adhere to the caste system believe that cosmic forces have made one caste superior to another. According to a famous Hindu creation myth, the gods fashioned the world out of body of primeval being, the Purusa. The sun was created from the Purusa's eye, the moon from the Purusa's brain, and the Brahmins, the priests, from its mouth. The Kshatritas, warriors, from its arms, the Vaishyas, peasants and merchants, from its thighs, and the Shudras, servants, from its legs. According to this explanation, and the socio-political differences between Brahmins and Shudras are as natural and eternal as the differences between the sun and the moon. The ancient Chinese believed that when the goddess Nuwa created humans from the earth, she needed aristocrats from fine yellow soil, whereas commoners were formed from brown mud. Yet, to the best of our understanding, these hierarchies are all the product of human imagination. Brahmins and Shudras were not really created by the gods from different body parts of primeval being. Instead, the distinction between the two castes was created by laws and norms invented by humans in northern India about 3,000 years ago. Contrary to Aristotle, there is no known biological difference between slaves and free people. Human laws and norms have turned some people into slaves and others into masters. Between blacks and whites, there are some objective biological differences such as skin color and hair type, but there is no evidence that the differences extend to intelligence or morality. Most people claim that their social hierarchy is natural and just, while those of other societies are based on false and ridiculous criteria. Modern Westerners are taught to scoff at the idea of racial hierarchy. They are shocked by laws prohibiting blacks to live in white neighborhoods, or to study in white schools, or to be treated in white hospitals. The hierarchy of rich and poor, which mandates that rich people live in separate and more luxurious neighborhoods, study in separate and more prestigious schools, and receive medical treatment in separate and better equipped facilities, seems perfectly sensible to many Americans and Europeans, yet it's a proven fact that most rich people are rich for the simple reason that they were born into a rich family, while most poor people will remain poor throughout their lives simply because they were born into a poor family. daydreaming for a second. Unfortunately, complex human societies seem to require imagined hierarchies and unjust discrimination. Of course, not all hierarchies are morally identical, and some societies suffered from more extreme types of discrimination than others. Yet scholars know of no large society that has been able to dispense with discrimination altogether. Time and time again, people have created order in their societies by classifying the population into imagined categories, such as superiors, commoners, and slaves, whites and blacks, patricians and plebeians, Brahmins and Shudras, or rich and poor. These categories have regulated relations between millions of humans by making some people legally, politically, or socially superior to others. Hierarchies serve an important function. They enable complete strangers to know how to treat one another without wasting the time and energy needed to become personally acquainted. A car dealer needs to know immediately how much effort to put into selling vehicles to the dozens of people who enter his agency every day. He can't make a detailed inquiry into the personality and wallet of each individual. Instead, he uses social cues, the way the person is dressed, his or her age, perhaps even skin or hair color. That is how the dealer immediately distinguishes between the rich lawyer who may well buy an expensive luxury car and a simple office clerk who has come only to look around and dream. Of course, differences in natural abilities also play a role in the formation of social distinctions, but such diversities of aptitudes and character are usually mediated through imagined hierarchies. This happens in two important ways. First and foremost, abilities have to be nurtured and developed. Even if somebody is born with a particular talent, that talent will usually remain latent if it is not fostered, honed, and exercised. Not all people get the same chance to cultivate and refine their abilities. Whether or not they have such an opportunity will usually depend on their place within the society's imagined hierarchy. Consider identical twins born in China in 1700 and separated at birth. One brother is raised by a rich merchant family in Beijing, spending his days in school, in the market, or in the upper class social gatherings. The other twin is raised by a poor, illiterate peasant in a remote village, spending his days in the muddy rice paddies. Despite having exactly the same genes, when they turn 20, they are unlikely to have identical skills in doing business or in planting rice. Second, even if people belonging to different classes develop exactly the same abilities, they are unlikely to enjoy equal success because they will have to play the game by different rules. If the peasant brother somehow developed exactly the same business acumen as his rich merchant twin, they still would not have the same chance of becoming rich. The economic game was rigged by legal restrictions and unofficial glass ceilings. When the peasant brother made his way to the Beijing market with his torn clothes, rough manners, and incomprehensible dialect, he would quickly have discovered that in the business world manners and connections often speak far louder than genes. Onto the vicious circle. All societies are based on imagined hierarchies, but not necessarily on the same hierarchies. What accounts for the differences? Why did traditional Indian society classify people according to caste, Ottoman society according to religion, and American society according to race? In most cases, the hierarchy originated as a result of a set of accidental historical circumstances and was then perpetuated and refined over many generations as different groups developed vested interests in it. Many scholars surmise that the Hindu caste system took shape when Indo-Aryan people invaded the Indian subcontinent about 3,000 years ago, subjugating the local population. The invaders established a stratified society in which they, of course, occupied the leading positions, priests and warriors, leaving the natives to live as servants and slaves. The invaders, who were few in number, feared losing their privileged status and unique identity. To forestall this danger, they divided the population into castes, each of which was required to pursue a specific occupation or perform a specific role in society. Each had different legal status, privileges, and duties, mixing of castes, social interaction, marriage, even the sharing of meals was prohibited. And the distinctions were not just legal, they became an inherent part of religious mythology and practice. The rulers argued that the caste system reflected an eternal cosmic reality rather than a chance historical development. Concepts of purity and impurity were essential elements in Hindu religion, and they were harnessed to buttress the social pyramid. Pious Hindus were taught that contact with members of a different caste could pollute not only them personally, but society as a whole. And should therefore be abhorred. Such ideas are hardly unique to Hindus. Throughout history and in almost all societies, concepts of pollution and purity have played a leading role in enforcing social and political divisions and have been exploited by numerous ruling classes to maintain their privileges. The fear of pollution is not a complete fabrication of priests and princes. However, it probably has its roots in biological survival mechanisms that make humans feel an instinctive revulsion towards potential disease carriers, such as sick persons and dead bodies. If you want to keep any human group isolated, women, Jews, Roma, gay, blacks, the best way to do it is convince everybody that these people are a source of pollution. Noted. 9 p.m. Oh, someone just got home. I'm going to cut this short and start from where I left off next time. Thank you for your time. Thought provoking, yet is this book pretentious? We'll see.